Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Cinema. I am Money Mike, and this is my Raw review from the first Monday Night Raw of 2026. Thank you so much for those who watched the live stream last night. And I wanted to get this upload earlier, but I've been working on my Royal Rumble rebooking series, which the second part of that will be up this Sunday, and the first part, which covers the 1993 to 2003 Royal Rumbles, is now up on the channel. So you can go ahead and click that link here. As for Monday Night Raw, boy oh boy, if that is how we're starting off the new year, it's going to be a long year for the WWE because it really does feel like creative is just kind of going through the motions. Hey, how do we let's just get to the Royal Rumble. That's kind of what it feels like. Lack of star power, lack of big names, lack of anything in terms of events and storylines. It was really, really interesting to see that that's what they decided to put out for the first show of the new year. So, starting off, we had the women's tag team titles on the line. Rhea and Io Sky challenged Asuka and Kairi for the women's tag team titles. This match here was pretty solid. Definitely went long in the match. Like I said, it was very solid for what we know those four women can do in the ring. It did surprise me a little bit that we did not get any of the other tag teams involved, and this is kind of what I mean when I said there was a lack of storyline progression, because on one hand, I understand the idea is to have a clean finish, and I know fans have made a lot of mention about how nowadays every match has an interference, and that is a problem. That is a problem, definitely. But it just seems like there should be interference when there isn't, because the interference makes sense. You get what I'm saying, right? Like, we had the big 8 women tag on SmackDown last week before this. So where was like Charlotte, Alexa, Nia, Lash Legend? Where were like any other women tag teams? Like we saw Bailey out there with Lyra earlier, or later on in the show when she was out there with Lyra for her match against Liv Morgan, and it seems Liv and Roxanne are a tag team now. So where I understand the whole thing was, Rhea, Io winning the tag titles, but I at least would have liked some kind of progression, or at least kind of a hint at what is next. Now, the only question here is I'm really curious how they're going to split the women up by the time we get to the Royal Rumble. There's a lot of women in the tag team title scene that are main eventers and that could, and realistically, could be in a women's world title match at WrestleMania this year. So I'm very, very, very curious how they're going to separate everyone off. Charlotte, Alexa, Rhea, Io. Is Rhea and Io going to have a long title reign? Are they going to take it to WrestleMania? Is there going to be a big blow off with the tag team division, maybe? I'm very curious to see how the booking of the women's roster in the women's division is going to shake out going in WrestleMania. Next, we had Gunther come out, and Gunther playing off the match with John Cena. I love that Gunther is doing You Can't See Me. Like, honestly, I wouldn't even mind if Gunther just stole the You Can't See Me and just used it for himself, But Gunther comes out there, got a lot of heat. And I'll talk about the crowd here in a little bit too. But AJ Styles comes out. AJ gets in his face. AJ slaps Gunther. This then goes to the back where Gunther is demanding a match against AJ Styles. And Adam Pearce says, "Hey, next week on Raw in I think they're in Germany next week for Raw. It will be AJ versus Gunther on Raw next Monday." Now, this is interesting because obviously the WWE is making Gunther the new legend killer. So it is very interesting that AJ Styles and Gunther are already having a match. Now, it is very possible that Gunther and AJ can have multiple matches, potentially leading up to a WrestleMania match. But this does make me wonder if, maybe they're doing a match now, and maybe both Gunther and AJ will kind of meet later down the line. Maybe when AJ does decide to retire, maybe in the summer or something, whenever AJ does retire officially, that they can then use the match next week to build for their match in the future, which would be AJ Styles' retirement match. Next, we have our second of 3 title matches on this night as Becky Lynch looks to reclaim the Women's Intercontinental Championship from Maxine Dupri. Now, Becky Lynch does win this match here. It was a solid match. Again, nothing really of note. Becky Lynch won with a roll up, and that was pretty much it. I was very surprised. Again, there was no storyline advancement. Now, before this match, we did get Adam Pearce talking to Ivy Nile. Ivy Nile was talking about wanting a match for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So I don't know if that we're going to be getting Ivy Nile versus Becky Lynch at some point, but it's very interesting that they took the title off of Maxine. Maxine, I felt like to me was starting to come into her own as the champion. That promo last week with Becky, I thought she'd held her own very well. And I really kind of wanted to see Maxine hold on the title for a little bit longer. I wanted Becky to keep chasing that title. Whether it was like AJ Lee coming out there, costing her the match, distracting her again, like something to that effect that would have kept the title on Maxine a little bit longer. But yeah, Becky Lynch is once again your Women's Intercontinental Champion. We didn't get AJ Lee, like I said. We did not get a whole lot of story advancements. A lot of it was just someone wins and then they move on to the next match. So I'm going to be curious to see where this goes with Becky Lynch as we do head into Royal Rumble season. AJ Lee did make her return in Chicago last year. Could we see Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee for the Women's Intercontinental Championship at the Elimination Chamber in Chicago? Or are they going to save that for WrestleMania? Then we had the Usos come out. They basically just said, hey, we're the best tag team. We are putting the tag team division on notice. They yeeted. They ran it back. So, yeah. That was pretty much it. I get that the WWE wants to have like these big viral moments with the yeeting and all that stuff, but I mean, coming out to Jay's music, the Usos coming out to Jay's music is like, come on, give us back the Usos theme song, okay? Then we had an interview with Stephanie Valkyrie. She was in a walking boot backstage, walking to the ring. This seemed like it was going to be a situation where maybe she was going to vacate the title. Luckily, she did not. She did say that the injury will not impact her at all. She won't relinquish the title. And Raquel Rodriguez actually attacked Stephanie Valkyr. So it did seem like they were writing her off. So I don't know if she is dealing with a legit injury or not, but it does seem like they were writing her off, because then we also had another segment where, like, immediately after, Stephanie was being helped to the back, and Raquel attacked her again. Like, I mean, it's kind of overkill at that point, I think. I mean, we get the picture that she's being written off TV, but was it necessary to do 2 attacks to her? Um, so this is interesting. I think a lot of people, when Liv Morgan came back, looked at Liv as being the one to potentially win the Royal Rumble, go on to face Stephanie Valkyr, but it seems like they're moving Raquel Rodriguez in that direction. So I don't know, Raquel is going to potentially, maybe she's the one who wins the Women's Royal Rumble, where Liv and Roxanne will go over the women's tag team titles, maybe. But I got to thinking too, if Stephanie does have to relinquish the title, which would absolutely suck, by the way, let's make the Women's Royal Rumble for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. I mean, honestly, if Stephanie has to be out for a long period of time, I would not mind WWE just going, let's make the Women's Royal Rumble for the vacated Women's World Heavyweight Championship. I think that would be fun. I think that would make the Women's Royal Rumble match a little bit more unpredictable. I think you could do a whole lot there. But again, if Stephanie is not out long term and it's just short term, then I love that she doesn't have to vacate the title. Next, we got Liv Morgan versus Lyra Valkyria. We had Roxanne outside ringside. We had Bayley outside with Lyra. And Liv Morgan's very first match since her injury. And Liv Morgan came up with the win here. So it does seem they're starting to start the build for the Royal Rumble, giving Liv Morgan that momentum with the win. And as I said, it does help with the fact that potentially we could be looking at Liv versus Raquel at WrestleMania, if that is the direction they go in. And before we get to the main event, I do want to talk about the sets of Monday Night Raw. Now, this was a big collaboration with Stranger Things. I will say I have not watched Stranger Things, so all these references and the set and everything else went way over my head. So, but the uniqueness of the set, that's what I want to talk about. Because every week we get these bland, generic stages. We don't get unique stages anymore like we used to. Remember when PLE's pay-per-views had their unique sets and each one was different? It wasn't just a generic Titantron screen. Yeah. If they can do this for a collaboration with Stranger Things, then can we please bring back the unique sets every week? Let's make Raw look different from SmackDown. Make SmackDown look different from Raw. Make Backlash look different from Judgment Day, No Mercy, or whatever pay-per-view, PLE. Like, let's bring back the custom sets. Like, if you can do it for a collaboration with Netflix and one of their shows, why can't we do it every week? Now, moving on to the main event, Braun Breaker CM Punk. This match started out slow. I will say, it did pick up in the second half. The Vision did get involved. Rey, Mysterio, Penta also got involved. They chased the Vision off. And that's when this match really picked up for CM Punk and Braun Breaker. This match really picked up steam in the second half, and it was a really, really fun match. Now, CM Punk did get the win, and I am split on this because I've said it before on this channel. I thought they should have just went ahead, strapped the rocket to Braun, give him the title, follow the Tiffany Stratton booking from last year, and just give him the title going to WrestleMania. I have to wonder, is it cliche or passe, whatever the saying is, to crown someone at a WrestleMania, at a SummerSlam? Because if you can crown someone before that, and the timing and the storyline, everything lines up, why wait for WrestleMania? Why wait for a SummerSlam? Just go ahead and crown the guy right then and there. Tiffany Stratton cashed in her Money in the Bank on SmackDown last year. They didn't wait. They could have waited for WrestleMania and had Charlotte versus Nia for the title and had Tiffany Stratton be the first ever women's Money in the Bank cash in. But they had her cash in on SmackDown. And I think they could have followed that booking for Braun Breaker, where Breaker wins the world title on Raw. Now, I honestly think that the way the show was, I honestly think it needed something like that. Yeah, Punk winning is great, but again, the WWE playing it safe creatively. And I said this before. I want to see the WWE take more risk in 2025. I have a video about that. You can check up there. I said they need to take more risk. And they went the safe route with CM Punk retaining the championship. And that tells me that probably they're going to go the safe route and have Cody beat Drew McIntyre on SmackDown on Friday, instead of trying something new, something different to shake things up. So, I don't know. Like I said, if that is the first Raw of the new year and that's how the rest of the year is going to be, WWE is going to be is going to get a very, very rude awakening. So if that is the best that WWE can come up with for the first show of the new year, we're in for a very long year for WWE. I'm just saying. They're going to keep playing it safe, not take chances with the booking, then it's going to be a very long year. Now, also, too, the other thing I do want to take note of before we end the video, Brooklyn. You are one of the best crowds that the WWE has. Every time WWE goes to Brooklyn, you guys are always on fire. You guys are loud. I mean, you guys care about everything. You cheer. But what the heck was that on Raw? You guys were nowhere to be. Like, I don't even know if whatever city they were in that one episode of Raw, where that in Louisiana, where the crowd was just sitting on their hands and not reacting at all. That's kind of what this felt like. Like, it felt like it wasn't in Brooklyn. It felt like it was in the middle of nowhere in the United States. Like, it's like, I'm like, what happened to the Brooklyn crowd? I mean, has WWE really gone that far with the ticket prices that they're pricing out even the hardcore fans in the major cities like Brooklyn now? Oh my gosh, that is going to be even a more rude awakening for the WWE as the year goes on, if that is the case. But let me know in the comments below, guys. What did you guys think of the very first episode of Monday Night Raw? Leave a comment below. And as always, I produce weekly wrestling content here on this channel. So go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button today. I've been your host, Money Mike, and you've been watching Ringside Cinema.